All right. So this is the second course. Um, this is supposed to be the second course, right? But because I could not finish some of the um, topics I intended to talk about in the first one, so I'll be touching on them quickly before going into what I'm supposed to talk about today. So yeah, as I said, I will be talking about the eraser tool, and as it's the same for some of these tools also, the eraser tool also has three types. There's the actual eraser tool, there's the background eraser tool, there's the magic eraser tool. I won't be focusing on these two because they are pretty much straightforward. You click on the eraser tool and then just erases, but I don't really use this option because it doesn't give me a realistic feel or help me to achieve my purpose easily. So what I use, or the specific eraser tool I find myself using every time, is the magic eraser tool. And as I said again, to achieve one effect, one purpose, you could do it in different ways with Photoshop. So instead of using the eraser tools to just tap and have things look anyhow, I can clean my work with different methods than those eraser tools. But magic eraser tool works for me because, well, first, it's called a magic eraser tool because it doesn't work like the rest. What it does is, it's another tool that tells you that truly Photoshop is indeed a smart software and it includes some smart tools. So this is one of them. And what I mean by smart in this sense is it understands what you're trying to do by you doing little, and then it helps you to do the rest. How does this work? So magic eraser tool records any click you make, again, on any pixel or on any color in an environment where you have multiple colors. In this target image or icon now, we have the white, this is gray, this is black, this is red. We have different colors, but I only want to remove let's say every gray part of this design in just one click or more. But the goal is I want to do this with less effort and I want to achieve the result quickly. That's why I'm choosing the magic eraser tool. So let's see how this works and I will explain what will happen. So if I select any part of the color I intend to remove, it looks for it around and it takes it off for me. Okay, so I remember talking about one of these tools in the last class. That should be the quick selection tool. Yes, quick selection tool. When I was talking about how you can select a particular pixel, a particular section of your design based on its color, and then the tool recognizes that you don't want to go beyond this color and it looks for the boundary around that color and it restricts itself to it. So I remember using a dark blue color as an example, and after it or beside it there is a sky blue shape that shares the boundary with it. So the color will not, the tool will not respond, will not get to the sky blue because it can tell that there's a difference between what you have clicked and the next color beside it. So you may be wondering why I clicked gray here and then it takes this one off, it takes this one off also. Isn't this straight line looking like some sort of boundary? So the thing is, yes, it is a boundary actually, but it's still a form, it's still in the family of gray. However, it's a little bit dark, but if you look at it closely, there is no much difference in the content of this thing when we look at it deeply based on its pixel. Outside it looks like this is light, this is dark, but when you look closely at the details, they look similar. So Magic Eraser tool recognizes that, okay, if you are trying to pick this gray off, then you are likely to want to remove this also, so it stops. So again, we're that to point you to a disadvantage of this tool, because in this case we may not want to get to this region of the design, I mean of the image. What if we want to only work around this? But because there's the boundary is not so evident, it's not so obvious, it's not so different from what we are selecting, then it crosses over it. A case of it will now be this red. If I click on this red, I don't expect it to cross over and then touch the other red. Why? Because the boundary is a very clear one and it's black. So if I click on this, okay, so even the closer color to red, which is a lighter variant, it is still not taken, because the difference between this pink light color and red, the difference is much, or is more than the difference between this gray and then this version of it. So that's how Magic Eraser tool works. When you click a color, it works around it, takes up the whole color around where you have clicked, and it stops whenever there is a boundary, right? So remove all the black in this design, just go to the black and click on it. So again, the boundary for the black is also similar to the main black you have clicked, and that's about the Magic Eraser tool. Okay, so for today specifically, what I'm to start with, I'm supposed to talk about major design fields, right? So if you say I'm a graphic designer, there is the place where you're a generalist, where you know some things about everything around design, and there's a place where you are a specialist. That's where you hear I am a UI UX designer, I'm a brand identity designer, I'm an illustrator. There are people who focus on this full time, that you can't see them doing social media design or flyer design. They illustrate, they only do UI UX, they are specialists. But a generalist knows all of this, or some things about all of this. So that will be the main thing I'll be talking about. But before I talk about that quickly, there is still an item on the list that I'm supposed to talk about for the previous previous class. So it is working smart with these tools or these features of Photoshop. There's a smart object, there is a layer mask, and then there's the history panel. What do these three things help you to achieve, or what will you gain by knowing these three things? Number one, it helps your work to be very flexible. Number two, it helps you to design in a non-destructive way. What I mean by that is, okay, for example, we took out this black part of this target image, we took out the gray, we took out some of these things, but how can we do it in a way that what we have done will not be lost forever? What if we still need to use them later? What if we still want to refer to them later and we don't want them to be lost forever? One tool, one feature that can help us to do, I mean the tools or the features that can help us to achieve this reusability or avoiding destructive processes, or to help us avoid not being flexible, is number one, smart objects, number two, using layer mask, and number three, the history panel. So what are smart objects? What are smart objects? In the last class I did something like, okay, we had different layers, and then I was showing you thumbnails or tiny icons around each thumbnail. Do I have something like that? Yeah, do I have something like that? Okay, so I remember saying, when you see this icon like this, you should know that it's the layer is a shape layer. When you see T, it's a text layer, right? So there is a particular way that smart objects look like. There's a particular way they look like, and I will show you quickly. So this is I don't want to bother about what I'm about to do now. Of course, I'll still talk about it soon. right? Okay, so anytime you see this small icon looking like a sheet of paper, and then there's a tiny one beside it, it means in this layer there is an embedded object within that layer that we cannot see outside, right? We cannot see it with our physical eyes until we do something. It's a smart object because it houses something else within it. So you can see it as a pregnant layer. The other layers are just there. Whatever you see on your worksheet is whatever you see. But there are some things that you can see on your worksheet, but if you look around in the layer panel, you won't see them. Why? Because they were embedded in a different layer. And any layer that houses something else, that embeds something else, is called a smart layer. It's called a smart object rather. It's a smart object. And for you to get access to what is inside, you will need to double click this small smart object thumbnail, right? You need to double click this small smart object thumbnail. So I will show you how it works. And so how to recognize it: if you look up, the name of this file is target.icon.5226.png. so when we open what's here, I want to see what we will have. So good. So what happened is I created, or I converted this same layer that we can see here as a smart object, right? And then Photoshop automatically creates anything you are embedding in a smart object. It creates its own environment for it, gives it a different file format, and that's .psd. PSB is a different file format or file description. The default file format for Photoshop is PSD, Photoshop document, right? You are familiar with PNG, with JPEG, but when you see PSB, it means you have opened a smart object somewhere, right? And this is how anything you have opened in smart object works. So this is the smart object. Now we are now in a different window. So this is a window, right? This is another window. This is another window. Whenever you open a smart object, it pops up a new window, and then you can do everything you want to do to that smart object inside the new window that has been opened. And when you are done, you only need to save what you have done. By the time you return to the source window, the main window, you'll find out that everything you've done will be automatically updated here. So again, that's the smartness in smart objects. That's the smartness in smart. It's like saying smartphone, right? So that's the smartness in smart objects. Okay. So for example, let's change a few things. Let me add a shadow to this, for instance. Okay. I'm trying to do something very obvious. Okay, and then when I'm done, if I save, Ctrl S, and by the time I come back here, I will have it here, right? But if you assess this layer properly, you won't see anything like we've added a layer to it, we've changed something, we've changed anything. You won't see it. Why? Because everything we have done to this layer 1, everything was embedded or was done to the content of the object embedded in this layer. So if you look at this layer 1 now, you can see the whole thing that was done. What did we do first? We added an effect. What's the effect we added? It's a drop shadow effect. But if you come here, you won't see anything. It's just layer 1 as it was, layer 1 as it was. So what has smart object helped us to do? Number 1, our layer panel is as clean as it should be. So imagine us adding like 10 effects to just this layer alone. This is 1, 2, 3. Let's say we have added like 10 to it. So this layer is expected to have 10 things under it. And then let's say layer 2 also has 5 of it. It's expected to also have 5 under it also. So number 1, our layer section will be cluttered, will look untidy. Number 2, we will almost lose freedom of what we are doing when you are seeing everything. I mean, everything is coming at you. But when it is organized, the layer panel is clean as it should be. You only need to open or double tap the smart object thumbnail in order to edit any part of it, right? Apart from all of this, there are some effects that you cannot add, or there are some effects that you can only add except it's a smart object. There are some effects that you can only add if it's a smart object. There are some effects that you cannot add if it's not a smart object. So smart object will not only accommodate something else or embed something else, it also helps you to be able to make the layer either what's the word? It helps you to make the layer receptive of some particular edits, or to restrict itself from taking some particular edits. I hope you don't understand that part, but you see layer, you see smart object at work. You see it. Okay, let me show you an instance of smart object also. Let me show you an instance of smart object. So if this may take a little while. If I open a design in Adobe Illustrator, for example, and then I drag it and drop it to Photoshop, automatically it will create itself. I mean, it will be converted as a smart object. It will drop on Photoshop as a smart object, meaning you are seeing a design in Photoshop, but the source of the design, every effect around the design, every shape you are seeing was done in Illustrator. So for you to edit any part of it, you would need to double tap this smart layer, this smart object thumbnail, and instead of it to open a new window as if you started working with Photoshop, it opens Illustrator for you. So you just find out that the new software is trying to open. Why? Because that's the source of the design that you have opened. That's where you can edit things and all. And when you are done editing in Illustrator, you only need to save it, and then it will reflect on Photoshop, just like the way we did it for this layer 1.psb. That's exactly how it was. So because Photoshop, because Illustrator, and because InDesign are products of the same company, Adobe, they allowed, or they have created, they have made things easy for designers in such a way that you can design some things in this software, take it to this other software, and then there's this connectivity. So whenever you open the other software, it can tell that you've changed this thing on this other software, then you need to update it. The moment you update, it automatically picks up the changes you've made in the other software, and it displays it for you wherever you're opening it, as long as it's still the same Adobe family. Do you understand? So that's one case study for smart object. Again, do I have anything open there? Okay. Instead of opening, let us do something quickly. Okay, so if I draw a shape, in Illustrator, and then I give it this red color, and somehow I plan to use this shape in Photoshop, okay, so this is it, and I click enter. So automatically you can see this smart object icon, the thumbnail beside it. So to make the thing clear, so I can still do some things to this design, but what I can do is limited. For example, to change this color from, okay, can you see, even though I'm selecting this, I've selected this layer, I've opened up the shape tool, and then I'm trying to change the color, it will not change because it recognizes that this shape has a different source. Its source is not in Photoshop at all, it's in Illustrator. So how do I change this my red to yellow? How do I work with still able to edit the source, edit this file when I still have access to the source? So if I double click this, instead of opening a new window and say maybe vector smart object.psb, it opens the source. Because I have the two softwares, it recognizes that the source is Photoshop and Illustrator 2025. So in this case, I will change this color from red to something else, and I want you to pay attention to what happens. Immediately I save it here and I come to Photoshop, it changes itself. So that is how smart object works. That is how it works. So in this case, what is embedded is what? The raw file of this shape that I'm seeing. It is embedded, and the raw file has its source where? In Illustrator. So that's smart objects quickly, although it is still more functional than these different case studies, but that's the background of smart objects. So the next one is the layer mask. I'll turn this off. So the next one is the layer mask. What does the layer mask do, or how does it work? So the layer mask has its own. Again, this is an instance of Photoshop using using names, using shapes and icons that we can relate with easily. So whenever we hear mask, it means you are putting something on something else, and whatever you do to that mask will not touch the original face that the mask is put on. When you remove the mask, anything you have done to the mask goes with the mask. The original face is still there. So again, that's an instance of non-destructive design. It means I still have access to the original version, but everything I'm doing it on something else without losing my original version, right? So that's that's how that's the basic explanation of layer mask and why we use it. So to apply layer mask to something, to a particular shape, let me use an image. Okay, so okay, so I have this dog image, and what I'm trying to do, for example, what I'm trying to do is I am trying to erase I'm trying to erase the tongue of this dog, for example, without losing the original picture that contains the tongue. What do I do? So the first thing is to add a layer mask. Okay, so again, I said I wasn't going to talk about some of these things till there's a need. So yeah, this is now you need to talk about this. The first one is called the layer mask. The summary says a layer mask allows you to hide parts of your image and then bring them back at any time. That means you won't lose your image at any time. So we add our layer mask to it. So you can see the application now. This is the original image. When you look at the thumbnail, there is a link or a chain, and then there is a new thumbnail. The new thumbnail is the layer mask you have applied. It is the mask you have applied. So whenever you now want to work on hiding or revealing something, you must ensure that you have clicked the layer mask and not the original image. If you mistakenly click on the thumbnail of the original image, you have defeated the purpose of that the non-destructive design we are trying to achieve, because you are destroying the original image and you cannot recover it. Well, you can recover it, but the idea is you don't want to struggle to recover. So click on the layer mask, and then okay, there's something I need to show you quickly. Before clicking on the layer mask, I want you to pay attention to these two icons. I called this yellow one the foreground color in the last class. The one behind it is the background color, right? Foreground color, background color. I said we can save colors with this. When you pick your colors, it gets saved here. You can switch which one is background and foreground with this icon, or use the shortcut X. So whenever we are working with layer mask, for example, layer mask only responds to two colors, black or white, as our foreground or our background. So now I will click on this layer mask thumbnail, and then when we come back here, automatically we now have black and we have white. So this is what happens whenever black is in the foreground and white is in the background. What we are trying to do, or what Photoshop will do, what it believes we want to do, is we want to hide a part of the object. But when we switch it and make white the foreground and black the background, it means we want to reveal. So now, enough of hiding and revealing. How do we actually hide and reveal? So the first step in using the layer mask is add the layer mask. Ensure you have clicked on the layer mask thumbnail. Check the foreground and background color to ensure it's in black and white. If this black is in gray, I mean somewhere close to black by mistake, or whatever way it happens to happen, you won't get what you need. It has to be black, full black, either this black in this angle or anything below that gives you this 000, the color code. We will still talk about color codes later. So it has to be black, and then the other one has to be white. So what do you do next to hide and reveal? You use your brush tool. So again, this is the first time I will be talking about brush tool. The shortcut is B for brush. When I click B, I have my brush tool. Again, I said you can reduce or increase the size of this by the square bracket on your keyboard. So I will reduce this. And one other thing to ensure while doing all of this is to hide or reveal, you want to ensure you are using a soft brush. What do I mean by soft brush? If you look up here, this is to tell you the version or the nature of the brush you are using. It says click to open the brush preset picker. So let's see the types of brush we have. General brushes, dry media brushes, and all. So if I click this, there is a soft round brush. You want to ensure that this is what you are using when you want to hide or when you want to reveal. I will show you the difference between this and the hard brush. So soft round brush, for example, I've clicked it. You also want to look up and check that your opacity is set to 100. So you may be wondering, why am I hiding and I'm still seeing something? Ensure this is 100 and just ensure that these are what they should be. So now, if I apply my brush around this tongue, I will see something like this, something like this, something like this. So this is not the best image to use. This is not the best. Let me make something that will make the case study look proper, because there is really nothing that we want to make us remove back. So let's do something like this. Okay, so I will use the magic eraser tool to remove this background in one click. Good. So again, this is an instance of it trying to look at familiar colors. So whenever you download a transparent background, or that is supposed to be transparent, and you have this check background behind it, sometimes Photoshop sees it as one sheet, one color, so it takes it off in one click. That's all. And then we have this. Okay. Okay. So if I drop this here, and then I'm trying to okay, let me do something quickly. Okay, so let's say these two images do not have any background, and I'm trying to put this puppy's head on the bulldog's head, right? So one way to do that is with this layer mask. Now is with this layer mask. So what I want to do is I want to hide the bulldog's head and reveal the puppy's head behind it. So how do I do that now? Yes, we have applied the layer mask, I don't want to lose the head entirely. That's why I'm using the layer mask option and not an eraser. So again, I said confirm that your foreground and background colors are black and white, and then your brush, confirm is the soft brush. So if I apply the brush over it, you can see how I am hiding the bulldog's head. And yes, the bulldog's head, and I have the puppy's head behind it. So this is a rough example, a rough experiment, but the idea is, have I hidden the head? Yes, I have hidden the head. Did I cut it off? No, it is still there. If I reveal it, it is still there. So let's make it look cleaner. So if I do a square, I mean a flat, so something like this, where this doesn't look like a dog 100%, but then the idea is, yes, I have hidden the head of the dog, but can I reveal the head again if I see that what I'm trying to achieve doesn't make sense or doesn't look like an actual dog? So what do I do? Again, I'll come back to my background and foreground color. I remember I said when it's black, it means I want to hide. But now that I need to reveal, I need to just switch this to white and then come back to my soft brush tool and apply it over it again. So you can, if you pay attention to this, you'll see there's a change in what I'm doing. There's a change in what I have there and what will eventually happen. So now I did not lose my original image because the layer mask helped me to achieve the non-destructive process I was hoping for. So if I find out that, okay, so there was no way I could manipulate the head of this puppy on the head of the dog, then I revert to what I was doing before, and then I still retain my image. So again, to do it quickly again, to hide it, I'll switch to black, soft brush, and apply it over it. To reveal it, switch to white, apply it over it. Let me look for another instance to show you this quickly. Let me see. I'll look for something else. Okay, so let's do something with, I still have the target icon and then this plate of rice. Okay, so if I remove this background, this red background, so I could not remove the red at once because there are different shades of red in this background. That's why the magic eraser could not remove it at once. But of course, I can use my quick selection tool to select the region I want. And I remember that yes, I only selected in the first class. I did not do anything with the selection. So this is a good time to explain what happens after you've selected. So if I intend to do quick selection tool now, and then I click on the region I want to pick out of the background, that's the plate below. So what happens if I right click? I could either choose to create a new layer from the selection I've made by copying it. When we copy something, it means you still have your original version and you now have a version of what you are copying, right? Or I want to create a new layer out of what I have selected by cutting it out of the layer, out of the background entirely. So whenever you are selecting, you can either do this or this. Create a new layer via copy. If I do it now, the current layer is background. If I do it now, then I have layer 1. I have copied a new layer of the plate alone. Meanwhile, I still have my original image. So what if I am to cut? What if it's layer via cut? I have taken out the plate entirely from the background and then it fills it up with the background color here, obviously the red, fills it up with it. So in this case, whatever may be the case, I only need this plate of rice to show you how this works. Okay, so what I want to do is to blend this plate of rice with the target icon by showing you half of each. So one will be on the left side, the other one will be on the right hand side. Okay, so I'll start by adding my layer mask. I'll confirm if my background and foreground color is black and white. Yes, it is, but in this case white will reveal, black will hide, but I plan to hide, so I'll switch it. Then to my brush tool, and then is this soft brush? Yes. So what will I do next? I will apply it over it. I'll apply the brush, so the brush is looking too large, and then I have something like this. So this can be used when you are trying to mix two pictures together in a way that you don't want the boundary to be very, very visible. So if you look at this closely, you really can't tell where the plate of rice stopped and where the target icon started from. You really can't tell. So this is a case study of using the layer mask and the brush tool to hide. So what if I want to reveal again? Switch this to white, soft brush tool, and then apply it. So that's that about brush tool. About layer mask using the brush tool to hide and to reveal. So the next thing, the third one on the list is the history panel. For example, so I'll close this and then I will reopen this. So as I said, if you remember, I said the three features are meant to allow you to have non-destructive process. What it means is you won't lose things in the process of designing if you can master these three things you have done. If you can master how to use smart objects, you won't lose anything, any part of your original design. Anything you've done, you can find a way to revert to your original design. That's what these three things are for. So the last one, this third one, is what? The history panel. How do you go to your history panel? You click on window and then locate history. So when you click on history, its menu pops up, or its panel pops up. Then you can see from what I've done to this design so far, the only thing I've done is to open it, right? So I have open. If I come now and I drag this, yes, if we come and check the history panel, we have what? Move. It means I have moved it. It's recording every step I've taken. If I click on this and I delete it, it says what? Delete layer. If I click on this and rotate it, Ctrl T to transform. So transforming means you want to change the nature of the shape of an object. So it could be to expand it, it could be to reduce it, it could be to rotate it, or anything. That's transformation, and the shortcut is Ctrl T or Command T. So now I'm transforming this icon or this object, so you can see what has happened. Free transform. I moved it up, it says move. So now I have done a lot of things on the design, but somehow I need to return to where I started from, because this is actually not looking like what I should have. So instead of doing Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, or Command Z and trying to undo, in a simple way, just open your history panel. Just open your history panel and then go to whatever you want to go to. If I click on open, so what I will have is the state it was when I opened it afresh. Okay, move, delete layer, free transform, and move again. It is still in the record that I moved. It is still in the record that I deleted something, but I have reverted to open, and this is what it looked like when I opened. So quickly, that's the history panel. So now that I'm saying free transform, I can check what did I transform, what did it look like before transformation, or what does it look like after. So now this is it. Back to open, and then you can save and close your file, and that's all. So yeah, those three things will make you work smarter. Those three things will make you retain your original file. You won't lose them. Your work will be neater, and of course you will be flexible in the way you do things. You can achieve flexibility with smart objects, work around different Adobe software by dragging and dropping from different places and editing at the source, saving it at the source. By the time you return to the place you're currently using the file, it gets updated automatically. That's about those three. Okay, so now I'm about to talk about the different niches in graphic design. So I started by introducing the three, or to introduce the main parts in design. As a graphic designer, there are two parts: being a generalist, being a specialist. For example, I am a generalist designer. That's because I know Illustrator, I know illustration, I can illustrate. That is, I can draw using all the design software. I can design social media designs, flyer designs. I can do brochure design. I can do presentation design. I can do book interior design. I know a little bit of motion graphics. I know brand identity creation. I know UI UX designer, UI UX design, because I'm a generalist designer. So there are some people, as I said, that are specialist designers. They are specialists. They are specialists. So one thing we try to confirm when you are learning design is what you intend to do with it. Do you just want to know some things about everything, or you want to know the basics of everything and then decide what suits you best? And then this is what I want to pursue, and this is the path I will go. So number one, or some of the most popular paths that people go is UI UX design. That's you basically focusing on the interface of products that people use on their gadgets, either on their web pages or on their mobile devices. Your own is to design the interface of what it will look like before passing it on to the developers that will make it come alive. So you'll be in charge of the color, you'll be in charge of the icons, you'll be in charge of the typography, you'll be in charge of the layout. And you will not just be designing as if you will not just be designing to make it beautiful alone. You are designing in a way that anyone who uses the product will have no problem, we have no issues understanding the goal of the product or understanding the step you want them to take. The moment they see it, they should know what to do. The moment they see, they should know what to do. So I won't be going deeply into all of this. I won't be talking about the principles for each of them and all. But somehow, when I'm talking about design principles, I will find a way to touch how these design principles apply to some of these parts or to some of these fields in design, right? So there's UI UX design. It entails you creating the interface. UI is user interface, UX is user experience. How do you design interfaces that allows people to have the best experience with products? How will your design help the marketing team or the product owner to achieve their goal? That's basically what UI UX does. You understand what you are to do by researching who you are designing for, knowing what they are looking out for, knowing the problem they have, and you trying to solve the problem with your design. We will talk about accessibility as we proceed. It may not be today. No, it won't be today. Accessibility has to do with you designing. Accessibility in the design sense has to do with you designing for every kind of human alive. It may be a black person, white person, a person of any race. It may be a short person, a tall person. It may be someone with visual impairments. It may be someone who has hearing issues. It may be someone who is physically challenged. You want to design in such a way that anybody who lays their hand on your design will have no problem using what you have designed. They will have no problem understanding what you have designed. They will have no problem working with it. An example of accessibility in the real life context is um, when when in the bank, for example, there is the usual stairs, and then there is this platform that is inclined, I mean reclined, for anyone using a wheelchair, right? It means they have considered that our customers are not only people who can walk on their 2 feet. There will also be people, there will also be there will also be seniors who need to come in to access their money on the wheelchair that someone will push them in. Therefore, we need to make provisions for them. That's an example of accessibility. An example of accessibility also is this automatic door that when you move close to it, it opens, it detects proximity, and then it opens up for you automatically. So that's an accessibility option for someone who cannot open the door by themselves or with their hands. So you just need to stay close to the door, it opens, then you walk in. When you're coming back out, it opens again, it walks in. Now bringing it to the internet world, the tech world, computer world, an example of accessibility is a voice control, right? Voice control. Now I'm talking about user experience, user interface now. Okay, let me just make it very specific to design, user interface now. How do you ensure that everyone who sees your design will have no problem with it? Number one is by working with contrast. I will talk about contrast when talking about design principles. Contrast is how you achieve a difference between the background and whatever you are placing on that background. In this case, I am using a red background and I'm placing a white text on it. But imagine me having a red background and I'm typing with a pink font color, for example. Where is pink? Okay, and I'm typing with pink. So not only will pink be hidden, it will only take, it will take someone who can look deeply before they notice that. Okay, I think even pink is still fair. Pink is fair. So let's do wine or a darker variant of red, for example. So something like this, right? I have typed and then I'm done and I'm leaving it. So whenever you want to compare what I typed here, the place in white on a red background, to this pink, right? It's easy for a designer to say, yes, I've typed it. In fact, I've made it very bold and it's big. But the moment you leave it, anyone viewing your work is likely to have a problem with seeing what you have done. In that case, you have not made provision for a user with visual impairments, right? You have only done it for someone who has the energy to strain their eyes and look closely and say, okay, this is pink. But someone who cannot see something that is so close by will try and eventually leave the work, meaning you have failed that person. So as a designer, accessibility is important, and accessibility does not only come to play in UI/UX design, but in every form of design. Everybody must be able to access what you are designing. So that's that. The next one is brand identity design. Brand identity. Sometimes when people say I'm a logo designer, logo design is just one offshoot of brand identity. What is brand identity? Brand identity is any provision you make as a designer for any brand in order to make them stand out consistently. What do I mean by that? Whatever you have done for them in terms of their visual outlook, in terms of what people see before they even hear them, before they even feel them, before they taste their food, for example, in the food restaurant case, what people see from the outside is what the brand identity designer has helped them to do. So what does it entail? Number one is their logo, right? Number two is their color palette. A color palette is a selection of colors that are meant for the brand and the brand alone. If you do anything outside the color palette for that brand, you are not doing them good, because someone else who is familiar with their correct color palette may think that this design belongs to someone else and may end up patronizing someone else, whereas the main owner is still struggling to get results. Meanwhile, the color has failed them and is pointing people to somewhere else. The logo is important, the color palette is important, then there's typography on that brand identity. So I'm saying for people who specialize as brand identity designers, they are people who understand how to design logos. There are people who understand how to select the right colors based on the kind of business the person is offering, based on who their target audience is, or based on the goal of the business owner. They can advise on colors and they will help them to stick to the colors. Brand identity designers also understand typography. Typography has to do with anything around text, text, typography, the study of text, or no, typography is the study of text. It just has to do with anything around typing, around text, around fonts. They will understand the difference between a font. They will understand the difference between font family. They will understand the difference between they will know leading, they will know kerning. All these things are under typography, and I will talk about them later. So they can advise on the right typography or the set of fonts that you will be using as the brand patronizing them. They will give you some set of fonts and they will make it something you need to be consistent with. If you go outside of it as the brand owner, you're on your own. But if you stick to it, people will get familiar with this font. For example, when we see Apple has a particular font, or let's say, I don't want to say Coca-Cola because the font is still their logo. It's still their logo. And of course, when I'm talking about brand identity in a separate way, I will talk about the different types of logos that we have, right? So that's a type of logo, word mark, where the word, the text is the logo, and then that's it. So there's a particular, I can't think of any now, that whenever you see this font, this brand comes to mind. They have achieved consistency with it and they are doing well with their brand identity. So yes, it contains, or it entails, their typography as well. Social media flyer design is quite straightforward. People will design flyers for social media, flyers that to go online, that won't be printed, and basically that's it. There is illustration. Illustration is, in simple terms, drawing in a digital format. That's illustration. Drawing or painting in a digital format. That's illustration. So some people focus on illustration. Some people, for example, we watch animations, we watch cartoons, we watch 3D animations, 2D animations. Some people tell the stories, some people illustrate these characters, and some people animate these characters. The illustrators are the ones who draw, who paint these characters. The animators are the ones who make them move. Then there's the voiceover artist who talks in the studio, and the animator synchronizes the speech and the movement, and then they produce an animation. And yeah, so that's illustration, is basically drawing digitally. There are tools for illustration, right? There is the graphic tablet. I have one beside me now. So whenever I need to illustrate, I bring it out and I draw with it. So it's like a pen on a tablet. When you are drawing, you're seeing your result on the screen. It makes it very flexible than working with your trackpad or your mouse alone. Yeah. So there is the book and editorial design. These ones focus on designing book interiors. They focus on designing presentation designs. They focus on designing brochures. So they work in the corporate space, for example. Um, Reports, weekly reports, annual reports, monthly reports. These things are not just done in black and white. Some of them need them to have their brand, to be done in their brand color, use their brand fonts, use their images, use their icons and all. So their designers will focus on something like this. Their own focus is just to design books, the interiors of books, the covers of books, to package books for publishing after designing. So there are people like that. Also, there are designers who focus on packaging and printing designs. There is really no physical product that we see out there that doesn't contain a package. Package means the container of a product, right? From the sticker that's on the product, that's the label, to the container, the carton, the box, or whatever that houses the product. There are some people who specialize in that, and it's a very technical design because it has to do with it's a very technical feed. It has to do with measurements. You'll be measuring in inches, be measuring in centimeters. The length of this must be the same as, you understand. It's a very technical one. You will be working with the press, that's the printing press. You must understand again, this is the kind of guys that use CMYK color mode most, right? Because their work is basically to be printed. So that's something else they do. Their work is simply for the press and for real life feel. It won't go digital, it won't go it won't be used on the web. It's meant to be printed. So there are people who focus on that and on that alone. So yes, that's basically it. That's basically it for the niches in graphic design. There are more, but these are some of the most popular niches in design. These are the most popular fields in design. People do a lot. There's infographic design. There are also people who do technical design. Even architectural design also falls under design. It's a different field on its own. Interior design falls under design. There are people who sketch and design the interiors of buildings, of structures before they get computerized and they come to life. So it's really more than this, but yes, this is all that we will cover. This is all that we will cover.